Well, you asked for it, and I delivered. This is the comprehensive list of every single Overwatch slang that I could possibly think of, and there's probably tons that I'm missing, but this list is legitimately over 60 different terms. Learning every single term can be vital for improving your game sense and bettering yourself as a player. But before we jump into this insane list, definitely go check out GameLeap.com if you want any clarification over anything in the video. But without further ado, let's jump right into it. Stack X, or the stack call, can be used to tell your team to stack to any one point. You can say something like stack McCree, stack payload, or stack objective, and everyone should be stacking to the target that is called. Meta equals most effective tactic available. Currently established optimal team composition or strategy for winning. Squeezing, to wait to the last second to use an ability or ultimate. This is like waiting for your team to get super low before you beat so that your beat lasts super long in the mid fight. Very advanced tactic, but can get a lot of value if used correctly. Ballooning, when you are capturing a point, you spread out to take more space and make it harder for the enemy to ult you altogether. Botting out, when you make a terrible decision that gets you killed, or you just all of a sudden lose all your mechanical skill and die because of it. Sus, when someone does something that is suspiciously insane, looks near hacky because of just how insane it was. Pick, first opening kill in a team fight. Punishing, capitalizing on enemies being out of position or misplaying. Flank, towards the backside of enemies, going around trying to get a pick or some advantage. Off angle, not quite a flank, but at an alternate angle to your team, shooting from an adjacent angle onto the enemy. Flex, swapping off your hero that you're playing to another hero that's better for the situation. LOS, equals line of sight, or the line of sights of you or your enemy onto each other. Trickle in, going in one at a time and usually getting punished for it. Squishy, a character whose overall HP is easy to kill or target, 200 HP or less, no armor. Stagger, dying late when your team is supposed to be regrouping, causing you to either stagger more or waste precious time on the clock. Reset, a call to tell your whole team to regroup as a full 6 to fight as a full team. Cheese composition, something that's meant to get wins in an unskillful type way. Think something like a Bastion sim defense, something that's really hard to push through that relies on the power level of the characters themselves, not the individual skill. Pirate ship, built around shielding a Bastion on a payload, something like Sigma and Reinhardt shielding a Bastion. Dive composition, a composition where you physically engage onto the enemy or their backline. You dive in with your full bodies, diving the enemy with something like Winston or Genji. Solo queue, playing ranked simply just by yourself. Backcapped, when you cap the objective when the enemy's not paying attention to you at all, you manage to sneak it all the way in without fighting the enemy in any way when they were not looking. C9, C9 comes from Cloud9, where a scenario where everyone walks off the point in overtime when they already won the fight. This causes them to lose the objective or even lose the entire game, even in a lost fight. That being said, this term has been used to accompany pretty much any time you get off the point for any reason, even if you get booped. And Z9 is something that's just thrown around like crazy. Pretty much no matter what happens, people are going to call you a Z9. Main, your best, most played hero. Smurf, playing on your account that's much lower than your main, kind of farming the enemy team because you're way better than them and you really don't deserve to be at that rank. Alt, an account made for practicing heroes or learning in general. DPS, this can mean two things. This also means damage heroes or damage per second, which could be referring to the damage heroes, or just how much damage your character does per second, which could be tank or support. Death Ball, playing a strat where you stick close to your tank and push forward as a team. Burst, doing tons of damage or heals rapidly. Pocketing, picking one hero to enable, heal, or boost. Booping, knocking someone around, trying to boop them off the map or put them in a specific location that you want them to be. Ult tracking, following how close the enemies are to their ultimate so you can make a better game plan about what ultimates they have. ADS, aim down sights. This is characters that have a scope, such as Ashe, Widowmaker, or Ana. Hipfire. Hipfire is not zooming in for characters that have a scope, firing without zooming in on something like Ashe or Widowmaker. Baited, tricking an enemy into pushing in when you're ready for them. This could be an Ana walking out in the open so that someone will dive her just for your McCree on the corner to flashbang and kill the diver. Overextending, pushing too far without your team, without resources, usually getting you punished. Wipe, when you or the whole enemy team gets killed, that is a pure wipe. AoE, or area of effect, also known as splash damage, is something like the remnant splash from a nade or the remnant splash of something like a far rocket. Boosting, a negative term implying that someone is getting actually boosted outside the rank that they deserve by playing with another character that's far better than them or even smurfing. Tempo play. Tempo reds are doing something to keep the fight going with momentum. Maybe you could reset, but using a tempo play forgoes resetting to keep that momentum going. Bongo, another word for Orisa supercharger. DM, is defense matrix, Diva's defense matrix. Purple is when you cannot be healed or Ana's anti-heal. CC, crowd control, or things that stun or control enemies' bodies. Nade, shatter, boop, hook, these are all forms of CC. Feeding, dying to the enemy when you shouldn't have, or giving the enemy free ult charge, like running around the map as Hog. You might not be dying, but you're giving them tons and tons of ult charge, you're feeding them ult. One trick, someone who only plays one character, typically a negatively associated term. Space, areas on the map that you control where your team can effectively heal, damage enemies, and make plays. It is primarily the main tank's job to try to confirm space for their team. Peel, helping a teammate who needs help and is in an engagement or someone's engaging on them. A diva coming back with defense matrix to help you from a tracer, or a support coming to heal you when you're under threat. Sustain, keeping your team up to fight at a full fighting force far away from spawn. Fall off, damage that is lessened the farther you are away from your target. Flick, moving quickly and firing at a target through a swipe of the screen. Tracking, following a target with your crosshair the whole time while you're firing at them, or even before. Clutch, winning a fight solo or in a big disadvantage but winning it anyway through the sheer power of you being a badass. Main healer, it's kind of a weird one because in scrims it means something different. In ranked it means healers who heal lots of overall HP, but in scrims a main healer is someone that typically calls that doesn't have a lot of mechanically demanding actions. So for example, a main healer in something like scrims would be someone like Mora, Lucio, or Mercy, but a main healer in ranked would be not Lucio. A main healer in ranked would be someone like Mora, Ana, Bap. Off healer, again, something that's different that's in scrims, but in ranked, it means less overall healing. But in scrims, off healers typically don't shot call because they have more mechanically demanding positions. For example, two off healers are both Ana and Zen in scrims. These are both mechanically demanding heroes, but Ana heals a lot and Zen heals a little. So they don't follow the traditional main and off healer that you hear in ranked, which can be confusing. But for ranked, when someone usually asks for a main healer, they're asking someone that wants a lot of heals. And when asking for an off healer, they're asking for someone that brings utility that doesn't bring as much heals to the table. Space Gem, Grab, which is Dara's ult, which Seismic Slam, which is Doomfist ult comboed. Beyblade, nanoing a Reaper when he death blossoms. Dry Push, pushing a point while investing no ultimates. Whiffed, completely missing an ability or ultimate like you're grabbing nothing when you tried to grab the enemy team. Upper or lower, general area of where the enemy is. Mega or mini, defined as a small or big health pack, can help with a call like left, lower, mini. You know that the enemy is on the left, lower, so not on the high ground, and near the mini. So if you know where the mini is, you could find their location pretty easily with those simple calls. One, when an enemy is supposedly one hit, be careful when people call something one because a lot of times it's like half HP. Snowballing, running with an advantage and pushing forward. You get a pick, but you keep the enemy staggered by pushing them on the back foot and even investing ultimates to keep it going. Electric Cowboy is just nanoing a McCree. NA ult, when you use it ult terribly. Turtle is when the enemy stacks together closely and usually doesn't move, something like a Bastion or Rissa defensive comp. Boostio, nanoing a Lucio, usually on accident because Lucio sometimes flies in front of you when you're trying to nano a Genji or something. Aimbot, hacking software that lets the user never miss. This is cheating, please don't aimbot. Toggle, this is an aimbot that can be turned on and off instantly. So sometimes someone will be aimbotting and it will look like they're aimbotting, but then all of a sudden they're aiming terribly. This is because they can turn their aimbot on and off on a whim. Low FOV aimbot, low field of view. This means that the aimbot only snaps when they're close, so they can't do these insane 180 flicks or anything like that. These are meant to make it look more realistic and they're harder to spot than just a full-on aimbot. AKM Blade, taking forever to charge at an almost passive rate. This is a reference to AKM, who had a Dragon Blade almost completely passive charge rate because he did almost no damage. Game Sense, your understanding of heroes, maps, and the interaction between everyone in the game, from ability timings to ult tracking and matchups. Impact, how much overall value you bring to winning or losing a team fight / game. This could be through your heals, through your playmaking potential, or even your kills themselves. Insta-locking, someone who picks a character instantly and usually doesn't swap. A negative term for sure. Kite, increasing the distance between you and enemies to either regroup, get heals, or get your cooldowns back online. For example, you could kite away from a Genji until you get your flashbang online, only to go back in him, flash him, and kill him. MMR, hidden matchmaking rank that is usually based on how well you perform based on your peers, only implemented at ranks under Diamond. Off tank, hero that has extra utility but doesn't have the tools to take space like a main tank, something like Zarya that doesn't have a full-on shield but can help her main tank take that space and help get divers off him. Peek, looking at an enemy briefly. Sometimes people will say something like don't peek main, which means don't even look briefly main because maybe there's a Widow looking right down there that could kill you instantly. Hit scan, weapons that register immediately upon execution of the fire. Think something like a McCree's weapon or a Widowmaker's weapon. Projectile, weapons or abilities that have travel time and thus are never 100% hit unless from point blank range. Rando, someone that's not in your stack of friends and queue, just some random person that gets paired with you. Skill ceiling, how high the maximum skill output is on a character. Someone like Widow has an insanely high skill ceiling versus someone like Brig has a much lower skill ceiling. Skill floor, the barrier to entry skill required to play a character at a decent level. Someone like Widow has a pretty high skill floor because until you get to a certain level, you're not going to be bringing that much to the table. Versus someone like Moore has a pretty low skill floor because it's pretty easy to get decent amount of value in her without any mechanical skill at all. What's important to understand about these two terms is it's actually possible for a character to have a low skill floor but a high skill ceiling as well. They're not necessarily directly conflated. Think of something like Roadhog. Roadhog has a relatively low skill floor and you're going to bring that much value to the table even if you're not that good at him. But his skill ceiling is still pretty high because if you can hit every single hook, you're going to be able to output so much more than just an average person on the character. Spawn camping, sometimes waiting for an enemy at spawn to kill them by surprise. Taxi, speed boosting a teammate who died back to the team or picking up a mercy. Use. This is usually a call to use ultimates when a fight is winnable, which is our next term. Winnable. When a team fight is winnable if you focus up and target. Usually when a team fight is winnable, this means either activate ultimates or start calling and focusing on who's on point because the fight should not be autopiloted because it might be winnable. Losable. The contrast to this is the fight that looked like it was already won, but it actually might be losable because the enemies are trickling in and might mean you need to either pay attention, stop autopiloting, or invest if you want to make sure that the fight stays winnable. Whew, that is a lot of terms, and I know for a fact that this is not even all the maximum terms. There were some terms that I completely left off the list because I thought that they were already self-explanatory, but if you have any terms that I missed, please leave them in the comments down below. For anyone else, I would love that so that people can get educated. Anyways, please smash the like button for me if you really like this content. I can definitely push out more, but I need a certain amount of support for this video if I know that this is content that you like to see. Anyways, if you have any questions or comments about anything I have in this video, please let me know, as well as any more video ideas. I made this video as a direct response to someone asking for it in the comments down below. I read every single comment and I will always make videos that you, the community, suggest. That being said, you suggest me videos to make and I always do. So the one thing that I ask of you is to go check out GameLeap.com. That's pretty much it. You just have to go to the website, just check it out. That's all I ask of you. But enough about that. I hope you have a great day. See you next time.